The year is 1972. Bloody Sunday takes place in Northern Ireland. The Olympics are held in Sapporo and Munich. The Watergate scandal begins, and Apollo 16 heads for the moon. But above all, you just got a new camera, which leaves you with the question, how do you use it? This is the Yashica TL Electro, a 35mm single-lens reflex camera produced from 1972 to 1978. This camera was one of the last to be produced as a part of Yashica's TL line, which stood for through-the-lens metering, and served as more of a mid-range model compared to the fancier TL Electro X. To load the camera, pull up on the rewind knob located on the top of the camera until the film door pops open. Place the film canister into the slot on the left side of the camera and pull the film leader across the rollers, making sure the teeth catch on the sprockets and that the end of the leader is sitting in one of the slits on the take-up spool. Then, depress the rewind knob to hold the canister in place. Advance the film forward one frame to make sure everything is feeding correctly. And finally, close the film door. Then use the advance lever to wind the film forward a couple shots until the frame indicator on the top of the camera reads 1. To adjust the shutter speed, simply rotate the shutter dial located on the top of the camera so that the desired speed aligns with the small black mark. This camera features a range of shutter speeds from 1 second to 1/1000th of a second, as well as bulb mode. This camera does have a unique feature though, in that for speeds between 1/60th of a second and 1/1000th of a second, partial stops can be selected. To do this, simply set the dial in between two stops. For speeds slower than 1/60th of a second, this will not work and the camera will set itself to the nearest listed shutter speed. The camera also features a threaded slot for a cable release located in the center of the shutter button. This camera uses a microprism dot focusing screen. To achieve fine focus, place the center circle over whatever you want to be in focus and adjust the focus until the image appears unbroken and the tiny diamonds disappear. The focusing screen works relatively well in most cases, but it can become difficult to use in low light scenarios or with slower lenses, forcing you to rely on the ground glass instead. To view the depth of field stop down, depress the small lever on the left side of the lens mount. Depressing this lever will also activate the light meter if you have batteries installed. This camera uses a simple stop-down metering system that will show you if your image is over, under, or correctly exposed, but nothing beyond that. Personally, I don't use the light meter in this camera, as the technology isn't the most reliable and can fall out of calibration over the decades, and more importantly, the mercury batteries the camera was designed to take haven't been manufactured since the 1990s when they were banned, meaning you'll have to find some sort of alternative if you want to use the light meter. To use the light meter, start by unscrewing the battery compartment on the back of the camera and inserting the batteries as indicated in the diagram. Then, reattach the battery compartment cover. Next, set your film speed. This can be done by pulling up on the ring on the outside of the shutter speed dial and rotating it until the correct number appears in the little window. The ISO can be set in 1/3 stop increments from 12 to 1600. To activate the meter, push down on the aperture preview lever and a green light should come on in the right side of the viewfinder. If it shows you this symbol, it's overexposed. This symbol, it's underexposed. And this is the indication of a correct exposure. To take a double exposure with this camera, first, flip out the handle on the rewind knob and move it until you feel tension on the film. Then, press and hold the rewind button on the bottom of the camera, being careful not to move the position of the rewind knob. Still holding the rewind knob and the rewind button, advance the shutter. If you've done everything right, the film should have remained in place inside the camera, allowing for a double exposure. This camera uses an M42 screw mount, sometimes referred to as a Practica screw mount, a Pentax screw mount, or a universal mount. To remove the lens, twist it clockwise until the lens is fully unscrewed and then remove it from the camera. To attach a lens, align it with the camera and rotate it counterclockwise until the lens is fully screwed in. The self-timer mechanism is located on the front of the camera. To set the timer, rotate it around until it stops and cock the shutter. Then push the shutter button and you'll have about 10 seconds before the picture is taken. Once the timer is set, there is no way to disable it outside of firing it.
This camera features a hot shoe and a flash port on the left side of the lens mount. This camera is capable of using electronic flashes as well as FP and MF flash bulbs. When using an electronic, or X flash, the camera will sync properly at speeds of 1/60th of a second and slower. When using an MF bulb, the camera will sync at speeds of 1/30th of a second or slower. FP bulbs will sync at any speed other than 1/60th of a second.
Once you've finished your roll of film and are ready to remove it, push in the small black button on the bottom of the camera and flip out the handle on the rewind knob. Making sure the rewind button remains depressed, turn the handle in the direction indicated by the arrow until you feel the pressure release or hear the film inside slide back into the canister. Don't open the back until you've finished rewinding the film, otherwise you'll ruin it.
Once you've finished rewinding the film, open the back and remove the film cartridge. The best way I can think of to describe this camera is plain, but in a good way, where there's nothing that stands out as super amazing, but there's also no real negative quirks that pull it back either. It just does what you ask it to do. Everything's super straightforward to use, all the dials and switches feel good to operate. The only one that's a little iffy is the film speed selector, but even then, compared to a lot of other cameras, it's pretty good. One thing that really stood out to me was the ability to set the faster shutter speeds in partial stops, which I really like because a lot of lenses this old only allow you to set the aperture in full stops, so this gives you a little more flexibility when working with those types of lenses. I really only had two main quirks with this camera. Firstly, with this particular camera, occasionally the mirror would get stuck up after the shutter was depressed, especially at 1/60th of a second. However, cocking and firing the shutter again would solve the issue, so I was able to get around it by just putting the lens cap on and doing a double exposure whenever this happened to reset the mirror. Presumably this is just something some cleaning and maintenance would solve, and I don't think this is a wider issue with the TL Electro itself. The one other quirk I found with this camera is that when using it with my Helios 44 M4 set to auto, taking a shot would cause the aperture pin in the back of the lens to jam. However, if I set the lens to manual, or I pushed the stop down button on the camera and then took the shot, there was no issue. This is the only camera I've had this issue with, so I'm not sure what's causing it, because I haven't had this issue with this lens on any other camera, or any other lenses on this camera. Overall, the TL Electro is a solid camera that easily holds its own amongst other well-loved cameras of the era. It might not have the historical significance or cultural impact of cameras like the Spotmatic or Zenit E, but it makes for a solid workhorse that I'd happily use any day.